Well, in this video, we're going to be reviewing some things from the lesson for applying powers of 10, and we're going to start with this problem. Let's say that the Cedar Rapids Colonels were going to have 296 students for a field trip at one of their afternoon games, and as part of the field trip, each student was going to get a free hot dog, and the Colonels want to make sure that they had enough hot dogs for everyone. So they looked through their supply and they found that they had 32 boxes. They had 32 boxes, and in each box there were 17 hot dogs. Okay, in each box there were 17 hot dogs. And they wanted to know if that was enough hot dogs for the whole group. And they were just going to estimate to make sure. And so we have to determine how we're going to come up with our estimate. So are we going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Well, if we're going to, looking at 32 boxes and 17 hot dogs, we're going to end up with a bigger number. So most likely we're going to add or multiply. So for adding, would we just add these two numbers together, put the boxes and the hot dogs together? No, that wouldn't make sense. So we're going to multiply because this is a problem dealing with groups. And so our problem is going to be 32 times 17. And going back, we talked about how we're going to estimate this. And so to do that, we're going to round, and we're going to round each one to the nearest 10, which happens to be a power of 10. So 32 would round to 30. And 17 would round to 20. So we're going to multiply that together. Now, how can we think about that? So I'm going to do the long way, and then I'm going to do the short way. So for 30, I can think of 30 as 3 times 10. And I can think of 20 as 2 times 10. Now, I'm looking at the 3 times 10 and the 2 times 10. I'm going to start with the 3 times 2, and I'm actually going to multiply those together first. So that's going to give me a 6. Then 10 times 10 is 100. So 6 times 100 is 600. Okay, so that's the longer way. Now usually when I do problems like this, I look at the 3 and the 2, and I go 3 times 2 is 6. There's 2 zeros, so I put those on. So the question is, do they have enough hot dogs for every student to get a hot dog? Well, based on the estimate, yes. Yes, they do. If there's 296 students coming and they have about 600 hot dogs, they do have enough. Now, do they have enough for every kid to get 2? They probably have enough for every kid to get 2 as well. Okay, now let's move on to the practice problems. And for the practice problems today, the first thing they're doing is they're giving you a problem and they want you to write it in standard notation. So let's say that we had 23 times 10 to the 5th power. So this first one I'm going to do a longer way, and the second one I'm just going to do a quicker one. So 23 times 10 to the 5th, I know that's 23 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, and 10 to the 5th power. So 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000, times 10 is 10,000, times 10 is 100,000. 100,000 has 5 zeros in it, same as our exponent. So I know that my answer has to have 23 and 5 zeros. Starting from the right, I'm going to count back 3. 1, 2, 3, put my comma. 1, 2, 3, put my comma. So that'd be 22,300,000. Now, for a quicker way, let's say for this one we had 9 times 10 to the 3rd. A quicker way of thinking about it, well, 9 times 1 is 9, And then the exponent of 3 tells me I have to have 3 zeros. That gives me 9,000. And for the other example problem, they want you to write each number in exponential notation. And so let's start with the number, let's go with 50,000. And I know that 50,000 is 5 times 10,000. And that would take us to 5 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. And since there are 4 tens, that's going to give us 5 times 10 to the power of 4, 10 to the 4th power. Now for a quicker way, and let's go with a bigger number like 4 million. When I do this a quicker way, I look at the numbers that aren't zeros. So in this case, it's a 4. Then I count the zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's a quicker way. So that just eliminates these other steps. So 4 million is equal to 4 times 10 to the 6th.